In the early hours of a quiet morning, security cameras at a ranch in Nuevo León, Mexico captured something that would spark worldwide debate. The footage belonged to Jaime Rodriguez Calderón, former governor of the state, and what his cameras recorded was both simple and deeply unsettling. Bright spheres of light drifting silently across the darkened landscape surrounding his property. The timestamp on the footage showed it was well past midnight. Most of the ranch was dark, the kind of darkness you only get in rural areas far from city lights. That darkness made what came next even more striking. Rodriguez didn't keep the footage to himself. He posted it to social media with a straightforward question. Does anyone know what these are? His tone wasn't sensational or dramatic. He seemed genuinely confused, and that confusion would soon be shared by thousands of viewers who watched the clips and found no easy answers. The post went up without fanfare. No elaborate conspiracy theories, no claims about alien visitors, just a simple request for information from someone who had clearly seen something he couldn't explain. The first clip shows a luminous orb gliding low over the ground. There's no wobble, no drift, no sign of wind pushing it around. The movement is steady and deliberate, tracking a path that looks almost planned. The object maintains a consistent altitude, maybe 30 to 50 feet above the terrain, moving at what appears to be a walking pace. No faster, no slower, just constant forward motion. The second clip captures another glowing object on a distant hillside. It radiates an amber-colored light that pulses gently against the stark terrain, sitting motionless as if anchored to the spot. The pulsing isn't random. It follows a rhythm, fading slightly and then brightening again in a pattern that repeats. The light doesn't wash out the surrounding landscape the way a spotlight would. Instead, it stays contained within the sphere itself, as if the object is generating the glow from its core rather than projecting it outward. These weren't flickering lights in the distance or vague shapes that could be explained away with a shrug. The cameras caught them clearly, and their behavior raised immediate questions. What made them glow? What kept them airborne? And why were they there at all? The quality of the footage added credibility that most amateur videos lack. Security cameras at a ranch like Rodriguez's are typically high-grade equipment, not cheap consumer models. They're built to capture clear images in low-light conditions, the kind of cameras installed by people who need reliable surveillance. The resolution was good enough to see that these weren't stars, planets, or distant aircraft. These were objects moving through the immediate airspace of the property. For those who study these phenomena, the timing stood out. In recent months, similar glowing orbs had appeared in news stories around the world. Military personnel described encounters with spherical objects that hovered without effort and moved in ways that defied known aircraft capabilities. Aviation professionals reported energy signatures unlike anything in their training. Intelligence officials stepped forward with accounts that matched the same pattern. Smooth, silent objects that seemed to operate on principles we don't understand. These weren't isolated incidents happening in the shadows. They were showing up in sensitive airspace, near military installations, over restricted zones, in places where radar coverage is constant and air traffic is monitored around the clock. The objects appeared anyway, moving through protected airspace as if the restrictions didn't exist. Some military observers noted that the orbs seemed to show up more frequently during exercises or operations, though whether that was correlation or something more deliberate remained unclear. What was clear was that these objects had been observed by trained personnel whose job is to identify and track anything moving through the sky, and they couldn't identify these. When a former governor shares footage of the same type of object passing near his home, it adds weight to a pattern that many believe is growing. Rodriguez wasn't a random witness with a shaky phone video. He was a public figure with professional security equipment, and the objects appeared on his property without a warning or explanation. His willingness to post the footage publicly suggested he genuinely wanted answers, not attention. Mexico has a long history with these lights. Across its deserts, mountains, and rural communities, sightings of glowing orbs stretch back decades. In the northern deserts, ranchers have filmed orbs hovering close to the ground before shooting upward at speeds that make no mechanical sense. One moment the object is stationary, the next moment it's gone, accelerating vertically until it disappears from view. No gradual climb, no arc of trajectory, just instant acceleration that would subject any human pilot to fatal G-forces. Along the coast, fishermen have watched glowing lights glide across the ocean's surface as if the water meant nothing. Some reports describe the orbs dipping below the surface and continuing to glow underwater, visible as bright spots moving beneath the waves before emerging again without any sign of propulsion or disturbance. Even in Mexico City, witnesses have documented bright spherical objects weaving between clouds or hovering above neighborhoods, emitting a steady glow that looks nothing like aircraft lights. The frequency has made some residents almost casual about it. In certain rural areas, locals have stopped calling authorities when they see the lights, not because they've lost interest, but because the response is always the same. No explanation, no investigation, just acknowledgement that yes, people see these things regularly. For them, the phenomenon is part of the landscape, an ongoing mystery that shows no signs of stopping. Reports come from all corners of the country, and the descriptions repeat the same details: silent movement, controlled flight, light that seems to come from within rather than reflecting off a surface. The orbs appear in different colors, amber and white being the most common, though some witnesses have reported blue or even green variations. What stands out in Rodriguez's footage is the behavior of the objects. They don't drift like lanterns caught in wind. They don't blink like planes or helicopters. They move with purpose, holding a stable trajectory that suggests intent. The light they emit doesn't scatter widely the way a flashlight or headlight would. Instead, the glow stays concentrated and self-contained, as if the energy radiates from the object itself rather than from any external source. Weather conditions that night were calm according to local records. No strong winds, no storms rolling through, clear skies. If these were lanterns or balloons, they would have drifted with whatever breeze existed. They didn't. If they were aircraft of any kind, they would have shown navigation lights, the blinking red and green markers required by aviation law. They didn't. Eyewitnesses around the world describe these orbs in similar terms: pure energy with no visible structure, no wings, no rotors, no exhaust trails. They produce no sound that anyone can detect, leaving only their glow as proof they were there. The consistency of these reports is what makes the phenomenon hard to dismiss. Different witnesses, different locations, different times, all describing the same basic characteristics. Some observers have noted that the orbs seem to maintain what looks like perfect geometric spacing when multiple objects appear together, as if they're aware of each other's position and maintaining formation. When they move together. When one changes direction, others follow in a coordinated pattern that suggests communication or shared purpose. The objects don't behave randomly. Observers note that they often appear near isolated regions, mountain passes, and open ranch land. The terrain around Rodriguez's property provided a dramatic backdrop, making the orb stand out even more against the dark ridgelines. But it's not just the location that matters. These sightings sometimes precede other unexplained events. In several well-documented cases, farmers have found intricate geometric patterns in their fields the morning after unusual lights were reported overhead. The patterns show precision that would be difficult to create in daylight, let alone in the dark. Crops bent but not broken, laid down in swirling designs that span hundreds of feet. While there's no proven connection, the timing has drawn attention. In one case, from central Mexico, a farmer reported seeing 3 amber orbs hovering over his cornfield around 2 in the morning. He watched them for nearly 20 minutes before they shot upward and vanished. At sunrise, he found a circular pattern in the crops, roughly 60 feet across, with smaller circles branching off in geometric precision. The stalks were bent at the base, all swirled in the same direction, showing no signs of being trampled or cut. Some researchers speculate that the glowing orbs might function as scouts or probes, deployed by larger craft to scan the environment or interact with the ground in ways we can't yet measure. Others point to reports of electrical disturbances that coincide with orb appearances, power fluctuations, electronic devices malfunctioning, car batteries draining for no apparent reason. The effects are temporary but consistent enough to form a pattern. The idea remains speculative, but the pattern is hard to ignore. Lights appear, strange effects follow, questions multiply. What adds another layer to Rodriguez's sighting is that it happened near the property of someone with a public role. When these objects appear in the airspace of a former government official, the situation takes on a more complicated tone. Some suggest this might indicate intentional observation. Others believe the objects move freely, unconcerned with human boundaries or titles. Either possibility raises deeper questions about why these events seem to be increasing and why people in positions of authority are now willing to report them. Skeptics have offered explanations: drones, distant lights, insects near the camera lens, reflections. But the characteristics in Rodriguez's video don't align neatly with any of these. The light was too bright and too steady to be an insect illuminated by infrared. Insects near a lens create a distinctive flicker as their wings pass through the field of view. That flicker is absent here. The wing movement of even the slowest flying insects creates a strobe effect on infrared cameras. Nothing like that appears in the footage. Drones usually reveal themselves through noise, navigation lights, or the mechanical motion of rotors. None of those appear in the footage. Modern consumer drones, the kind readily available to anyone, produce a distinctive high-pitched whine from their motors. Professional drones are quieter, but still generate sound, especially when hovering or maneuvering. The audio from Rodriguez's security system captured nothing, just silence. Commercial drones also have battery limitations. Most can fly for 20 to 30 minutes before needing to land and recharge. The orb in the footage moved with the calm patience of something that had no power constraints, no hurry, no signs of struggling against gravity or fighting to stay airborne. The object remained visible for a sustained period, ruling out glare or reflection. Reflections from distant light sources, headlights from roads, or even aircraft landing lights behave differently on camera. They shimmer, they move erratically, they respond to atmospheric conditions. The orb did none of these things. It held its course with mechanical precision, or something beyond mechanical precision. Pilots trained to identify aircraft at great distances have reported orbs with similar characteristics. Objects that accelerate instantly, change direction without showing inertia, or hover with perfect stillness even in turbulent air. The commonalities between those pilot reports and the footage from Mexico have renewed interest in whether these spheres represent a form of technology that operates beyond our current understanding. Commercial pilots are trained to recognize everything in the sky. They know the difference between Venus and an aircraft at altitude. They can identify military jets, civilian planes, helicopters, and even weather balloons from their movement patterns and light configurations. When experienced pilots report something they can't identify, that carries weight. In several documented cases, pilots have described orbs pacing their aircraft at cruise altitude, maintaining perfect formation without any visible means of propulsion. The objects match the plane's speed exactly, whether it's traveling at 300 knots or 500. Then, without warning, the orbs break away and accelerate to speeds that would require forces no human could survive. One pilot described it as watching something go from standing still to supersonic in the blink of an eye, with no transition period in between. These aren't casual observations, they're logged reports filed with aviation authorities, documented by multiple crew members, sometimes captured on radar. The reports come from different airlines, different countries, different atmospheric conditions, but the descriptions remain consistent. On social media, reactions ranged from awe to apprehension. Many viewers noted how calm Rodriguez seemed despite witnessing something so strange. Others wondered why these objects appeared more frequently in certain types of terrain. The rugged landscape surrounding his property made the glowing orb even more vivid, a bright point against the darkness. The mystery lies not just in what the objects look like, but in what they don't do. A craft designed by humans, whether for surveillance or transport, almost always produces noise or heat. Engines generate sound, propellers create vibration, jets leave exhaust. These orbs offer none of that. They drift like sentient lanterns, silent and unexplained. If the orbs rely on propulsion unfamiliar to current science, it would explain their smooth motion and their ability to remain airborne without visible support. The idea that they might be deployed by larger craft as a form of scanning or data collection remains speculative, but researchers point to the patterns that keep appearing. Orbs show up, strange formations follow, the cycle repeats. Rodriguez's decision to share the footage reflects a shift in how people talk about unidentified aerial objects. What was once dismissed or whispered about in private is now acknowledged openly by figures with public profiles. The conversation has changed. The footage stands as a reminder that unexplained things continue to move through the sky, silent and luminous. For those who live in regions where these sightings are common, the phenomenon has become part of daily life. It's no longer a question of whether the lights exist. The question is what they are and what they're doing. Rodriguez's footage adds another data point to a growing collection of evidence that something is happening in our skies, something that doesn't fit neatly into any category we've established. The orbs keep appearing, the cameras keep recording, and the questions keep piling up with no clear answers in sight.